we finally got a series that's actually very good this season, apart from like One Punch Man and most of the seasonal stuff. Way! It's like, honestly, for seeing like a bunch of like the like articles and stuff for like Crunchyroll and stuff, it's like, it's really actually like a lot of people are like, just so mixed on the like, stuff that's out so at the moment. Like everything's like a season 2. We know One Punch Man's awesome. Come on, we knew One Punch Man was awesome for the fucking start. Like, come on. So it was very nice to actually find out, just browsing through like the Crunchyrolls, just like going through the app saying, let's see what's out here. Oh, check this out. Known as the Crunchyroll name is Beautiful Bones Sakurako's Investigation. However, its English name is quite nice, but its Japanese name, get ready for a mouthful. Sakurako-san no Ashimoto ni wa Shitai ga Umatteiru. Like, okay, that's a bit of a mouthful. Like, and honestly, why am I talking about this? Like, you're like, Panda, you're in all into your action series, you know, your little swords and your like little rubber ninjas and stuff like that. Well, one, if people don't know, they've already seen this already, and people have seen me talking about it in the past, I absolutely adore stuff like Case Closed, Detective Conan. I absolutely love suspense, horror, mystery. I love that, like CSI, The Wire. Like, I love detectives. I love mystery, horror. I love that stuff. I mean, not saying like I do enjoy some. I mean, I don't enjoy some kind of horror. I mean, I'd be quite terrified if there was a guy in a fucking gimp suit sitting downstairs on my sofa with a chainsaw saying, "You ready for a good time, pudding?" I'm not. That's not the shit that I'd be. I mean, that's quite suspenseful and quite terrifying. That's a bit of a cliffhanger to leave on. But it's like, regardless of what, I like my suspense, I like my horror, I like a little bit of like all the stuff that was in this episode, and it was really interesting, and without a lot of, like, that's the thing, this is like the same thing with like Detective Conan, Case Closed, like, where it's like, they don't use a lot of animation, and even though they used a bit of CGI in here, but the way they did it, and the stuff that the character was saying was interesting throughout the entire episode, and it had me engaged from the start. So we get to see from our main character, like Shitai, and you know, he's the typical kind of like, oh, you know, my life was completely normal until I met this certain person. I'm the main protagonist. We kind of know what we're gonna get from the main protagonist. It's like normal boy meets crazy girl, or gets superpowers, or, you know, goes on journey to find blank blank blank. You know, every story's been done before, and like, that's the thing. This guy, oh, I met this girl. Interesting thing, it's not like the crush is his life or anything. Interesting thing, this girl, so far what I've seen, it's like, I hope it keeps with like what it's doing now. It's like the main character, the star of the show, should I say, is Sakurako, who, her whole thing is like, basically, she's a middle-aged, like, sort of 20-year-old woman. She's got a fiance, she's a pretty rich person, she's already got a business, and I'm going to butcher the name of this. But it's a very interesting thing that I didn't expect to see, that she is something known as an osteologist, who's someone that, you know, collects bones, make it into collections. She's actually made this into a living where, you know, she collects bones of all, you know, animals, you know, prehistoric, you know, stuff like that. She does that for a living, and one thing that's interesting about that is that her, Shitai, is like, it's not really fully explained where their relationship, because like, he said like, well, we're not lovers or anything, she's got a fiance and we ain't exactly friends. It's just like, I just happened to meet her one day, and our relationship's a very weird thing where she's like always kind of underestimate me, call me boy and stuff like this, and it's like, oh, I'm not a boy, I'm a grown man, like, you know, all this stuff. And honestly, one thing that's interesting about it is that her uncle was actually like this really like great detective, and it was like, oh yeah, she like picked up a thing or two of the. And they basically, when they were digging out on the beach, they actually found a human skull, and the main character actually rings it in saying, oh my god, we found a body, and finds out that this skeleton, exactly, like, it was only the skull they found, and she was telling you, like, all the deep, you know, primitive things, like, you know, you have this bone at the back of your skull that looks like, resembles a bone, like, it was really kind of interesting stuff, like, stuff that you normally learn in, like, stuff like CSI and stuff like that, if you ever paid attention to biology class, which I hope some of you kids are, because this is important shit if you want to do into crime or some stuff like that. And when you find it out, like, later on, it's like, oh, the police come here. And it's like, yeah, like a normal, sensible person, like, bitch, you can't have that skull. And she's like, no, fuck you, I'm keeping the skull. This is my skull. I found it. And then she was like, well, you're not going to find the murderer because this bitch is 100 years old. And it's like, one, how do you know it's a woman? Two, How do you know it's unreal? And she's like describing, oh, you know, the little intricates of like the cavities and stuff like that. And honestly, as I'm saying this right now, this probably sounds very boring to people. I don't know why. For me, I'm fascinated by that. Like, I'm like, yeah, keep going, Sakurako. Like, I don't know. It must be just a few mixed that's like in here, but it's like I know I've seen a lot of people that giving this a really positive review so far, and it's like so far it's like really interesting. Like, she even like ended up finding like this double like suicide, or she was like, oh no, she was like, it turned out to be a homicide because she was like actually able to like immediately tell about the bodies and stuff like that. And it was like, it's very interesting. She seems to have this thing, I don't know if this is like the whole supernatural thing of it, where she kind of took the police officer and like Shitai and like herself into like this world where it's like, oh, holding the hands and stuff. Like, I don't know if that was a supernatural thing or is it just like, oh, we just go with it. It was like very weird sort of thing to see like that. Kind of really reminded me of like Dexter, kind of like in that show where he kind of recreates sort of like the scene. He's like, oh, I become, you know, the murderer, like stuff like that, or like Hannibal especially as well. It really reminds me of Hannibal as well. Like Will from that show, what he does, he actually becomes the murderer, or like he has these little things in his imagination. It's not exactly the same. She don't become the murderer, but that's like the clearest example I can give if anyone's seen Hannibal, the TV show. That's kind of the best comparison really I can give to that. And honestly, it was interesting. Like, she was like, oh yeah, just search all this up and you're looking for a double homicide. It was because of like the knot and stuff like that. And for how like the first episode is like, we don't exactly find who the killer is or something, but maybe that might actually get solved in maybe the next episode, or maybe it just might be a different cases. But I find it interesting, and I just like, I hope it doesn't go into any like predictable route or anything, because so far like that's like one of the little golden things I found like that. I mean, I know this isn't going to appeal to a lot of people like that, but I love my mysteries. I love that. It's got a very, like, Sakurako's got that big like mysterious dark vibe about it, and that's what I like about her. Like, also as well, it's like, it isn't just like, you know, oh, typical, you know, little kiddies going around school, oh, you know, dark horror, oh, like that. It was like the guy didn't seem phased out really by like a dead body, really. He was just like, oh, this kind of like a skull. He was a bit surprised about it, but, you know, even when they saw like kind of this like cat at the start of the episode, it was like, oh, just get, you know, a box and stuff like that, and it was like, sort this out. So hopefully, I don't want it to focus too much on the school stuff. Obviously, I know that's going to do that. But yeah, like, because we also, it's going to be like we're seeing from Shotai's perspective. But, you know, I really hope they want to like keep going at it. Like, you know, Sakurako, she is a very interesting. Honestly, I thought this was a great episode. To score, like, it's really like sad to say, because I really enjoyed this, but I can honestly see people getting not interested, or like after 5, maybe 6 minutes, they could be very turned off by this, not very interested. Like, honestly, if you love detective shows, if you love stuff like Hannibal, Dexter, like, if you like Case Closed, Detective Conan, like, if you love stuff like that, CSI, like, NS, like, all that stuff, The Wire, like, you're gonna love it. Like, I think you're gonna absolutely fall in love with it and enjoy every minute of it. For people that not too into, this is definitely not the first like sort of horror, like I don't even know if I should call it horror, like, really. It's just more like supernatural, if that's that element with the whole thing there. Like, I don't even know exactly what that was, but if you're more into like sort of the mystery and I guess kind of gruesome, like, I guess if you're terrified of skeletons, and there you go, like, that's the sort of thing you got. But yeah, it's not, I don't think this is going to be serious like of the Halloween where it's like, ooh, spooky, you know, like that. It isn't going to be anything like that. But it's really going to make you like contemplate about things, I feel. I think this is going to be one of the ones where you start questioning life and death and stuff like that. So, take what you get. Honestly, for me, I thought this was fucking great. I give it a solid A. I thought it was a really good episode. Like, the people that aren't into it, you might think it's fine. Like that, like, I honestly think you would give it, like, other people mainly give it a 6. Personally, I thought it was great, really. I can't wait to see more. Don't know if I'm going to keep up with this one, though. I might wait for this to, like, either finish or a good bundle of episodes. Don't expect me to talk about this every week. Maybe if there's, like, some really stuff I'm really passionate about, then yes. But apart from that, I'm absolutely loving that. I've got so much to talk about this, and it's like, I'm glad this was a lengthy review. I thought I would only talk about 3 minutes about it and say, hey, check it out. But it really, this is the sort of stuff that I love about doing like stuff on this channel and just reviews in general. You notice that it's like where I start talking about something about longer, and I'm also procrastinating right now, which I'm sure people are saying fuck off and clicked off already. It's like, that's the stuff I love. That makes me question stuff. That makes me, I wonder what's going to happen next. Like predictions, you know, thoughts, after thoughts, you know, going through it. That's the stuff I love. And that's why I would really recommend, like, I'd say this is the little golden gem that we got from the season. Obviously, apart from, like, the real golden, shining platinum trophy is probably going to be One Punch Man for the season. But this is that thing that's going to be, like, I think it's going to be, like, unheard of. That a lot of people, like, will be, yeah, I remember this show. I pray to God that's the case. Because I don't want it to be, like, episode 2 or 3 and it's, like, it's immediately downhill. Like, I hope it's just not always up. If it's as solid as this throughout the entire way, fucking perfect. Like, that's great. But that's all from me, so thank you much for watching as always, and